Going on, you guys? Welcome back to this week's first and only exclusive segment from the greatest podcast on turf. I'm Anthony. I know it looks a little different. I know Ryan's not with me. I'm actually on vacation right now. I'm up in New York City. I'm recording in my uncle's office, his little studio room he's got going for his music, so bear with me. It is in the basement, so if you hear like the air conditioner or whatever the hell that is, sorry. I'm going to be giving you guys my Week 17 championship NFL fantasy football stardom sit-ems. Ryan's going to give you guys his. I know it's different. I know it's rare. We'll be back to normal next week with our normal 5 uploads a week. It's just this 1 week thing. So with all that being said, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, follow us on Instagram. I know it sucks. We'll be back next week. We just wanted to bring you guys some good content, some fantasy football content, so you guys can win your championships in fantasy, and so we can help you guys win some money and take home that title. So yeah, like, subscribe, and now should be Ryan with his stardom quarterback.
What's going on, guys? Bringing you my stardom team for your fantasy football championship. So to start us off at quarterback, I'm looking at 2 guys. One of those guys is Trey Lance against Texans. One of those guys is Joe Burrow against the Chiefs. If you're in a single quarterback league, Joe Burrow is obviously the better start here. Joe Burrow is the guy that you want to trust more. Going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who have the fourth most of the points allowed to quarterbacks this season. Joe Burrow's coming off of a huge, best career game that he's had. He had 500 yards. He had about 4 touchdowns. He put up about 40 fantasy points. And it was a very solid game. If you started him in the first round of playoffs, you were absolutely amazed. And you're going to the championship most likely. Against the Chiefs, I can see a similar outcome. Most likely is going to be a high-scoring game. Probably the highest-scoring game of the week. And he's going to need to put up a lot of points if he wants to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bengals, they have to win at least one more game in the next 2 games. So this is arguably a must-win game for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think that the Bengals are going to do good. I think that they're going to throw the ball around the yard. They have to in order to keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs. This is going to be a high-scoring game. Joe Burrow does have the weapons in order to keep up with the Chiefs, and I think that he does very well for you in your fantasy football championship. The other guy I'm looking at is Trey Lance this week. This is more of a super flex league, a daily fantasy type of play where you can kind of take more risk besides a 1 quarterback league. If you're in a super flex league and your quarterback 2 is somebody like Kirk Cousins, 100% go pick up Trey Lance and start him this week if Jimmy G does not play. Trey Lance, his rushing ability gives him a high floor in fantasy football. He's probably going to give you about 15 points every single week, and he has the upside to give you QB1, literally like the top QB of the week. He has that upside to give it to you. And Houston is not a bad matchup at all. They just got into a shootout with the Chargers. I think against Houston, the 49ers can do good still, even without Jimmy G. The only real worry here is their game plan. They might just run the ball every time, and that could be troublesome. But Trey Lance is a decent start anyway. With his rushing ability, he has a pretty high floor. The only problem in starting him in a single format is that he's a rookie quarterback making his 2nd career start. So obviously that's a little bit sketchy. But in a super flex or daily fantasy, I would 100% recommend starting Trey Lance. At running back this week, I'm looking at 3 guys. One of those guys is Ronald Jones against the Jets. The other one's Sony Michel against the Ravens. And finally, Rashad Penny against the Lions. In terms of where I rank them, I would probably go Sony Michel first. Darrell Henderson being out makes Sony Michel the bell cow for one of the top offenses in all of football. The Ravens just got absolutely gashed by the Cincinnati Bengals. Everybody did good. From the receivers to Joe Mixon. I think Sony Michel does good this week, being the bell cow for the Rams. I think that he can get goal line opportunities. He is a pass catcher, so go ahead and start Sony Michel this week. Next, I would probably go with Rashad Penny against the Lions. This is more risky a little bit, but against the Lions, who have allowed the 3rd most points to running backs, you kind of can't go wrong. And Rashad Penny is really the only running back on his team. When he came in for his first start, he absolutely killed it against the Texans. The next week after against the Rams, he kind of fell off a little bit. But last week against the Bears, he absolutely killed it again. So Rashad Penny is a pretty good start against the Lions team that can't really guard much. Rashad Penny is really the only bright spot in this offense as of the past couple weeks, so I can see him doing good again this week. And finally, Ronald Jones. Last week he did good. He got you a touchdown. He got you about 16 points. Nothing crazy, but a pretty solid day. Keyshawn Vaughan had a 50-yard touchdown run that obviously a lot of people weren't happy with. Ronald Jones could have made that run easy. He didn't really get touched. He just ran straight. Ronald Jones against the Jets this week, it is a great opportunity. He'll get a ton of goal line carries. And it's a good game script. They should be up a ton in the fourth quarter, meaning Ronald Jones can get the ball a ton in the fourth quarter, get a ton of carries. So against the Jets, he should do pretty good this week. At receiver this week, I'm looking at 3 guys also. One of those is being Antonio Brown against the Jets. It's really simple as this. He's a top 10 receiver whenever Chris Godwin don't play. He is Tom Brady's favorite option. He is a probably top 15 receiver in all of football. He's on a top offense, so go ahead and start Antonio Brown against the Jets. But I'll dive deeper into the other 2. The first one being Amari Cooper against the Cardinals. He came out publicly last week saying that he wants more red zone targets. He wants more third down targets. And Wise Man once said, squeaky wheel gets the grease. He got the grease. He got you 16 points. Or he got you more. He got you over 20 points. He got a ton of targets, ton of catches. So Amari Cooper against the Cardinals this week is a must start. When guys come out public, it means a lot, especially a guy like Amari Cooper. And obviously the Cowboys, they respected it. They knew that he was right, and they forced him the ball, and it worked out. Against the Cardinals, this is also a similar game script as of Washington in terms of how much they're going to score. Washington didn't put up a fight at all, but the Cowboys didn't care. Cardinals, they are going to put up a fight, so it's going to be a similar 40-point game, probably most likely, in a dome, so you don't have to worry about any winner effects. Amari Cooper is a solid start this week. Odell Beckham Jr. I haven't really been a fan of him, but against the Ravens, who have allowed the 4th most points to receivers, a completely depleted secondary with nothing much at all, you have to start Odell Beckham this week. You can start Van Jefferson in the daily fantasy. Cooper Kupp is going to be a top 3 receiver this week. We just saw what the Bengals did to him. T. Higgins had a day. Tyler Boyd had a day. Jamar Chase had a day. It's not hard to believe that the Rams will have the same day against them. I'm not really worried about it at all. The only problem is they are traveling across country to Baltimore, and Matt Stafford is questionable at times in the cold weather, but I still think, if anything like last week happens, Odell Beckham Jr. has a solid day, so he is a stardom.
I know you had all great stardoms. We talked about it before. So I'm starting off my stardom quarterback this week. It is Matthew Stafford, traveling cross country to Baltimore, to the Ravens. I know Baltimore is a hard place to win, especially December. Well, it'll be January when they're playing. It's cold, but Matt Stafford's used to the cold. He played in Detroit for pretty much his whole career. He knows how to play. The Rams have been on fire as of late. Sony Michel's doing his thing. OBJ's getting in the mix. Van Jefferson's getting in the mix. The Rams have been killing it, and the fact of the matter is, the Ravens just gave up 525 passing yards to Joe Burrow in the game of his life. And according to my calculations, Matt Stafford is a good bit better than Joe Burrow. Respectfully, they're both great. I like them both. But Matt Stafford is a little bit better than Joe Burrow. So I'm starting Matt Stafford this week at the Ravens. Yeah, he may be available on your waiver wire. Go ahead, pick him up, stream him if he is. But if not, and you have him on your bench and you don't know who to start Matt Stafford this week. He's a must start. Ravens defense just got killed. They lost their 3rd string corner, who was their 1st string corner, Anthony Everett. I saw he got hurt in the game last week against the Bengals. So the Ravens just keep getting depleted by COVID and by injury. So with that being said, go ahead and start Matt Stafford this week pretty confidently. My stardom running backs this week, I have a couple of them. You could argue 4, 3, or 2, however you look at it. My first stardom running backs are the Broncos running backs at the Chargers. That is Javonte Williams or Melvin Gordon. I personally would probably lean more towards Javonte. I know they didn't do much last week against the Raiders, but that was a weird game. I didn't watch much of it, but it was just a weird game. Drew Lock was in. It was just weird. The Broncos are traveling to the Chargers. The fact of the matter, the Chargers can't stop a parked car against the run. The Chargers have not stopped a single running back all year. Look for that to continue. The Broncos running backs have been good. Javonte Williams is fighting for that starting spot. I think he can do it here. I think this could be the game where he firmly takes it from Melvin Gordon and just says, F this committee, I'm the starter, I'm better than Melvin Gordon, because he is. Melvin Gordon's terrible. Both the Broncos running backs are solid starts this week, but definitely I lean more towards Javonte. But honestly, you really can't go wrong with either Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams. My second group of running backs to start it's the Eagles running backs at the Washington football team. Now, the reason I say running backs is because it seems like Boston Scott is the only 100% healthy Eagles running back. Yeah, they have Kenneth Gainwell. He's kind of been fallen off a cliff. Miles Sanders sounds like he's hurt. And they have Jordan Howard, who has a stinger. who it sounds like the Eagles want him to play and they think he will play, but you never know. These guys are probably guys who you picked up off waivers if you're in the championship, or you can pick up off waivers. So if you have the ability to, if you have a guy that's on IR like a Mike Evans or a Chris Godwin, or someone who's hurt and is not playing this week and is not a keeper league, drop them guys because this is the championship week. Hold the Eagles running backs to you starting. Last time they played, the Eagles ran absolutely rampant on the Washington football team. Yeah, it was the game where they were battling COVID, whatever, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because they rescheduled the game. But the Eagles still ran all over them. Washington's terrible. They just got ran all over by Zeke and Tony Pollard on Monday night. Zeke had like 2 touchdowns in the first quarter because I played against him in fantasy. So go ahead and start the Eagles running backs confidently. Pick them up off waivers. Stash them on the bench. The Eagles ran all over the football team last time, and I'm sure that'll continue. Eagles are just trying to get the run game going. The Eagles are in the playoffs. They're pushing for a playoff spot. So, I mean, they're going to continue to keep running the ball and pounding the rock against these teams that they're playing. Moving on, my one starter wide receiver this week, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown at the Seahawks. The Seahawks as well, like the Chargers, couldn't cover a parked car. The Seahawks are god-awful against the pass, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is a guy who, like Hunter Renfrow, who we've seen just be Mr. Consistent. He's just consistent games, no matter who's been a quarterback, Jared Goff, Tim Boyle, or whoever the hell Detroit's been playing. He's been thriving in this offense like I thought he would when he got drafted. You can ask Ryan, anybody loved Amon-Ra St. Brown coming out. He's proven why he was a stud, that he could have gone way later than way earlier than the 3rd or 4th round like he did. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a start this week. The Seahawks are terrible. They just lost to the Bears. They lost to Nick Foles, who's the worst quarterback in the history of football. So you can go ahead and confidently start Amon-Ra St. Brown this week. He has league winner potential, and he's been, if you've been starting him, he's been carrying you through the playoffs so far. So go ahead and start Amon-Ra St. Brown this week again at the Seahawks. I know it's in Seattle. Now, this is the thing. Keep an eye on the weather. If it's snowing and 10 degrees out, maybe don't start Amon-Ra St. Brown just because it's 10 degrees and the Lions aren't going to throw the ball a million times. But, I mean, if it's a decent day, if it's just normal weather in Seattle, start Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's been consistent all year like Hunter Renfrow, and he's been killing it. He's been a stardom for the past few weeks now, and that's continuing here. And to wrap it up, my starting tight end this week, coming off a bounce-back game, I got Hunter Henry of my New England Patriots. Did you see the new hoodie? Happy holidays, by the way. I hope you all had a great holiday. Hunter Henry of my New England Patriots. The Jaguars blow against tight ends. They're terrible. Mac Jones targets Hunter Henry a lot, especially in the red zone. The Jaguars are terrible. The Jags are a laughing stock. They're probably going to have the #1 overall pick. And if tanking is a thing, if the Jags are tanking, Hunter Henry's in for a big bounce-back game. I think the Patriots are in for a bounce-back game as a whole, coming off of this 2-loss streak. We're at home, and I think us beating the Jaguars here and putting up a lot of points on the board could be a key to gain some momentum back. I know it's only the Jags, but Hunter Henry's in for a big game. They're coming back this week. Patriots are going to have a bounce-back game. Mac Jones, Hunter Henry, they're all having a bounce-back game. So pick Hunter Henry up off waivers. I'm sure he's dropped. Or if you need to stream a tight end, because tight ends are a hot commodity. Or if you have him on your bench, start Hunter Henry this week. He's a must-start this week against the Jags defense, who is god-awful against tight ends.
At quarterback this week for my sit-em team, I am looking at Kirk Cousins against Green Bay. Green Bay, they have stepped it up a lot in these past couple weeks. They weren't very good at the start of the season, but the past couple weeks they have been a top defense in football. Kirk Cousins, the problem here is that Kirk Cousins is traveling to Green Bay. He's playing outside. It's December, January, so this is must-win football. Cold weather, must-win football. Kirk Cousins, they don't mix very well. He's going to probably choke in Green Bay. There is an opportunity that this is a high scorer because you have 2 top offenses in theory, but I'm worried about Kirk Cousins traveling in the cold weather. I'm worried about them playing in December, January. We all know how the greats do in December and January. It's must-win games, so Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, they win their football games. Kirk Cousins, doesn't really do that, so obviously I'm a little bit worried about starting Kirk Cousins this week. At running back this week for my sit-em team, I'm looking at a couple guys. Cordell Patterson and Saquon Barkley. Patterson, the situation's not very good. He was a top fantasy football waiver wire pickup of the season, but against the Bills, it's not a great matchup. The Bills have allowed points to running backs. I will give them that. But it's happened when the Bills have lost football games, and they're not going to lose to the Falcons by any stretch of the imagination. This is a negative game script for Cordell Patterson. He's not going to get touches in the fourth quarter. They're not going to score a lot of points. So I'd probably lean away from Cordell Patterson. Also, the Falcons have made it pretty clear that they are going to be resting their veterans. They are going to be giving them minimum touches. Cordell Patterson the last couple weeks only got 15 touches, and his fantasy day has been absolutely saved by touchdowns. I don't think the Falcons score that many touchdowns against the Bills, so it is a lot less likely chance that Cordell Patterson gets one against the Bills this week. The next guy I'm sitting is Saquon Barkley going up against Chicago. Saquon didn't practice on Wednesday. It's not a good look that he might not even play this week. He hasn't been good all season. He's been banged up. His team isn't good. I told you guys not to draft him. I'm still sitting him. If you have him and you made it to the Fantasy Football Championship by playing him, I'm begging you sit him this week. I know, don't get too cute, but Saquon Barkley, he's in that category where he's not one of those upper echelon guys anymore. I don't even know where I would draft him next year if he fell to me. If he fell to the 5th round, I don't even know if I would do it. So Saquon Barkley, I would not trust him against Chicago. Chicago isn't a great defense, but in Chicago it might be a little chilly. And you can't trust Saquon Barkley. He don't even look like the best running back on his team this year, so go ahead and sit him. At receiver this week, I'm sitting a couple guys that are in very similar situations. Michael Pittman and Brandon Ayuk. I start off with Michael Pittman. There's the chance that Carson Wentz doesn't play this week, so obviously that sets Michael Pittman back. Also, he hasn't been doing good when Carson Wentz has played. He had double-digit games in 2 of his last 5. That's not really good at all. In a PPR league, so that's not good at all. Going up against the Raiders, who have allowed the 3rd least points to fantasy receivers, that's obviously not a good matchup. You can't trust Michael Pittman without his quarterback. You can barely trust him with his quarterback, so sit Michael Pittman this week. And Brandon Ayuk, he's been inconsistent all season. He's gone up against the Texans, who are actually a decently tough matchup, and this is if Jimmy G don't play. Trey Lance is not a passer. He is a running quarterback. That's what he thrives on. That's what he's good at. So if you have Brandon Ayuk this week, I would lean towards sitting him. He has been inconsistent all year this year. You can't trust him with a backup quarterback in your fantasy football championship. That just wouldn't make sense. So go ahead and sit Brandon Ayuk this week.
Moving on to my Week 17 Fantasy Football Championship sit-em team. I'm going to go ahead and start off this one. I'm sitting Tua Tagovailoa at the Titans. We just saw the Titans beat the 49ers on Thursday Night Football. I'm pretty sure it was the night before Christmas Eve. The Titans defense caused a lot of turnovers. Jimmy G threw 2 picks, and I'm pretty sure they may have caused a forced fumble or so. And Tua, although he's been good in fantasy and he's been pretty consistent, he does throw a lot of turnovers. There's got to be better options available to stream. Maybe like a Trey Lance out there to stream, or a guy like, I'm trying to think, there's other guys available to stream. I can't name off the top of my head, but a guy who I would start over Tua this week is a Trey Lance, just off the top of my head. But yeah, Tua, he's a turnover machine. He likes to throw interceptions. The Titans defense can capitalize off that. A.J. Brown's back. Tua's not going to be able to make those mistakes, but I think he will be making those mistakes. So you got to go ahead and sit Tua this week. There's got to be a better available quarterback this week that you can play, that you can stream, or that you can start over Tua this week, just because I don't like the matchup. I really don't. Moving on to my sit-em running backs this week. I'm going with the Chiefs running backs traveling to the Bengals. Now, the reason I say Chiefs running backs is because it sounds like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is questionable to play. Now, if Clyde Edwards-Helaire does play, you're sitting him. If it's Darrell Williams, I think it's Darrell or Damian Williams. I always get them mixed up. It's one of the Williamses that's running back for the Chiefs. You're sitting him as well. Yeah, they did a lot against the Steelers last week, but the Steelers freaking suck against the run. The Bengals have been solid against the run all year. They shut down the Ravens running backs last week. They've shut down running backs all year pretty much. So they're going to continue that this week. If you have the start of Clyde Edwards-Helaire or a Darrell, Damian Williams, whichever one it is, go ahead. The touchdown upside's always there, but they definitely don't have an upside, a positive matchup this week going against the Cincinnati Bengals. For my second sit-em running back, I know this, I'm going to botch the name completely. Dare Ogunbowale. Sorry, I know I botched your name. It's the Jaguars backup running back. James Robinson tore his Achilles and he's done, and you probably picked up Dare off the waivers this week, but it's not a good matchup against the Patriots. The Patriots are known for shutting down young running backs, for shutting down rookie quarterbacks. Bill Belichick versus an interim head coach. The Patriots are going to blow the Jags out this week. There's bad game script for the Jags running back, for Dare. His name's spelled Dare, but I'm pretty sure it's Dare. There's bad matchup for him this week. There's not good game script for him this week. The Jags aren't going to be able to run the ball because the Patriots are going to come out and score a lot of points. Go Patriots, baby. So I'll go ahead and sit the Jags running back this week. Moving on to my sit-em wide receivers. I'm sitting Terry McLaurin this week versus the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have been solid against the pass all year. Yeah, I know you can argue last time he had 51 yards with Cooper Rush or whoever was playing quarterback. But the Eagles' defensive line has been pretty good, and they're going to be able to put pressure on a Taylor Heineke who does not like pressure in his face. We've seen he's had a lot of turnovers the past few weeks with pressure in his face. We saw it against Dallas. He had 2 or 3 turnovers in the first quarter, first half, because I played against the Cowboys defense in fantasy, and I still won somehow. But yeah, you got to sit Terry McLaurin this week. Taylor Heineke's not going to have time to throw him the ball, and he's probably going to be getting mirrored by Darius Slay, who's been pretty good all year. I know it's hard to sit Terry McLaurin. He's a guy who has the upside to go off for 150 yards and a touchdown. It's really not a safe play this week in the championship game against an Eagles team who has kind of been on fire as of late. I will give them the benefit of the doubt. The Eagles have been on fire. They've been pretty good against the pass all year. So, I mean, there's got to be a better matchup this week than Terry McLaurin. And, I mean, I don't blame you if you do start him just because it's Terry McLaurin and he's probably got you to the championship. But I would sit him this week personally. And then sit him tight end this week. I'm going to go ahead and sit Kyle Pitts. Again, I know it's hard. Kyle Pitts has been a top tight end all season. But the Bills just held Hunter Henry to 1 catch last week against the Patriots, and it's just not a good matchup. Any team that has held a tight end to 1 or less catches, it's not a good matchup the following week for the tight end. So, I mean, you got to go ahead and sit Kyle Pitts this week. It sucks, but I know it's hard, and I don't blame you if you do start him, but Buffalo's defense has been good all year against tight ends, and like I said, they just held Hunter Henry to 1 single catch on pretty sure 4, 5, 6 targets. That's pretty good. So, and yeah, that's going to wrap up my sit-ems, and I'm pretty sure this video, if I edit it how I have it in my head. So thank you guys for watching. Like I said, we will be back next week. We got the studio coming soon. We're going to be recording in the studio. No more recording in my aunt and uncle's basement. This is the first and only time. So thank you guys for bearing with us. Like, subscribe. Appreciate the love you guys are showing. Appreciate you bearing with us. And we'll see you guys on Tuesday with our bounce back videos and podcasts.